The year is 1881. Autumn has settled over the pale, orderly city of Bath, England. The streets are slick with damp, the gas lamps are just starting to flicker to life, and if you breathe in deep, the air carries this faint, sharp scent of limestone and ink. In this explainer, we're walking straight off those cobblestone streets and right into a captivating historical mystery. It's a mystery about a heavy piece of stone that was purposefully hidden away in the dark. But why? Okay, let's dive right into this. The core puzzle we're unraveling today is, well, pretty baffling. Think about it. In a Victorian printing house, limestone was incredibly valuable. It wasn't something you just toss out, and you certainly wouldn't ruin it with thick black paint and shove it into some dark, damp cellar. Unless, of course, you were trying to hide something very specific. So to understand exactly what that was, we first need to meet the person who actually found it.
Section 1. The Trim Street Printing House.
Our story really centers on this quiet, unpretentious place, the Trim Street Printing House. It's been churning out books, pamphlets, and notices for the city of Bath for over half a century. And operating right in the middle of this mechanical world of worn rollers and heavy typecases is our protagonist, Ida Graves. Now, Ida is 27, and she holds the title of Keeper of the Printing Stones. She's someone who has truly earned her place in a heavily male-dominated trade through sheer persistence and just this incredible eye for detail. Her hands literally carry the permanent, faint blue-black creases of her trade. Down in the damp cellar beneath the printing house, she oversees this sort of graveyard of 14 retired stones. It's her personal domain. She knows every single scratch, chip, and hollow on every last one of them.
To really appreciate Ida's job, we kind of have to understand the technology of the era, right? A printing stone isn't just a rock. It is the absolute foundation of the Victorian press. We're talking about massive 2 by 3 foot slabs of Bath limestone, ground perfectly smooth. You lock the metal type directly onto them before you ever press a single sheet of paper. If a stone is damaged, the print is ruined. If it warps, the whole press halts. So Ida's meticulous care literally dictates the survival of the entire operation.
Section 2. A stone painted black.
Let's move ahead to a quiet Tuesday evening in October. The printing house is completely empty, the presses have finally gone still, and Ida is just doing her routine checks in the cellar. That's when she spots something that totally doesn't belong. Tucked way at the back, hidden behind these heavy, damp bundles of old proofs, is a stone she has literally never seen before. It's larger than the working stones, leaning at this hasty, awkward angle. But the most shocking detail? Its perfectly ground printing face has been deliberately smothered in thick, old black paint. You see, it wasn't painted to be reused. It was painted to completely conceal whatever text was locked onto its surface.
And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates Ida's analytical mind. As she's crouching there in the lamplight, she realizes something profound. If someone truly wanted this text gone forever, they would have just ground the limestone down or smashed it, right? I mean, discarding is an act of finality and total destruction. But they kept it. They hid it and they painted it, sure, but they kept it, meaning someone, 30 years ago, couldn't quite bring themselves to let it go entirely. Now, Ida knows that limestone is patient and that old paint gets brittle. So she comes up with a plan. In total secret, arriving before dawn and staying long after dusk over several days, she begins this meticulous restoration process. She gathers potash, turpentine, and soft rags. She applies the turpentine to soften that old paint, working the rags in tiny, careful circles. It's so delicate. Apply the wrong pressure and she damages the limestone face right beneath it. But her patient pressure pays off, and layer by layer she slowly reveals the ghost of the text beneath. So the crucial point here is what that text actually says. After nearly a week of aching hands and raw knuckles, the reverse letters finally become legible in the dim lamplight. It's a title page for a book. It reads, "The Condition of the Working Poor in the City of Bath, being a survey of their circumstances and a proposal for their relief, by Elena Voss, a woman Ida has never heard of, a book she has never seen, preserved perfectly there in the dark." Section 3. The Suppressed Book of 1851. Obviously, Ida needs to know what happened to this book, so she searches the printing house's meticulously locked ledgers. And what she finds for the year 1851 is honestly chilling. In April of that year, 500 copies of this book were printed and delivered for Voss. But almost immediately after, an order came down. Every single copy was recalled and completely destroyed. The ledger simply notes the stone was retained pending further instruction, but for the next 30 years, that instruction never came. Someone completely wiped this book out of existence. Section 4. Erased from the record. But Ida's investigation doesn't just stop at the printing house walls. She sets out into the beautiful, wealthy city of Bath to figure out who Elelina Voss was and why on earth someone went to such extraordinary lengths to silence her. She heads over to the library to check the Bath city directories, and sure enough, in 1851, there she is, Voss E., printer and stationer on Walcott Street. But when Ida checks the very next year, 1852, the entry is completely gone. No listing found. In the span of a single year, Elelina Voss and her business simply vanished from the public record. Thinking maybe this was some massive public scandal, Ida checks the Bath Chronicle newspaper archives from April 1851, but there is absolutely zero mention of the book's suppression. Nothing. And as Ida wisely notes, silence is a deliberate form of printing. The decision of what not to say is just as intentional. It becomes super clear that this was a quiet, powerful cover-up, likely orchestrated by the prosperous people named in the book who didn't want any association with the conditions of the poor. Section 5. The Return of Henry Voss. The whole mystery feels like a total dead end. That is, until a Wednesday morning when an unexpected arrival interrupts the quiet rhythm of the shop. An older man walks in. This is Henry Voss. He's a 68-year-old man in a well-kept dark coat, and he moves with this slow deliberation, like someone who has carried a heavy burden for a very long time. He is Elenana's son. And remarkably, he's come inquiring about an 1851 printing order, completely unaware that Ida has just spent the last week pulling his mother's stone out from under 3 decades of black paint. Ida steps out of the compositing room and tells him exactly what she's found down in the cellar. She leads him down the stairs, and when he sees that cleaned limestone in the lamplight, his reaction is just profoundly moving. He touches the reverse letters of his mother's name and whispers, "I have been trying for 50 years to find a copy of that book. The stone is the first thing I have found in 50 years." Over a cup of tea, Henry shares the tragic timeline of his mother's life. Back in the 1840s, Elelina had built her own printing house on Walcott Street from absolutely nothing. But in April 1851, her book was printed, and it didn't just survey the poor, it explicitly named the corrupt, wealthy institutions profiting from those conditions. Days later, those wealthy figures threatened legal action, called in debts, and seized her entire business just to silence her. Broken by the loss of her life's work, she died in 1853, her legacy basically erased. Section 6. Pressing truth to paper. You see, Henry just wanted proof that his mother's hard work was real, that her voice actually existed. And as Ida looks at that heavy limestone slab, an idea begins to form, and this is where her expertise really shines. She realizes that while the thousands of tiny metal letters used for the main body of the book were broken down and reused decades ago, the title page was locked onto this single dedicated stone. As she tells Henry, we cannot print the book itself, but we can print evidence that it existed. That stone itself is still a functioning press, ready to work. So 2 weeks later, working with a sympathetic printer friend of Henry's over at Kingsmead Square, they used the stone to print an 1881 broadsheet. It features the exact impression of Elena's title page, alongside a plain text explanation of how the 1851 suppression happened and how the stone miraculously survived for 30 years. And they definitely didn't keep it quiet this time. They distributed this broadsheet to every library in Bath, to the newspapers, and most powerfully, directly to the descendants of the people who originally suppressed the book. And this brilliantly illustrates the core theme of this amazing historical account. As Ida observes, limestone is patient. Think about it. The very same stone used to build the wealthy, beautiful facades of the city of Bath was the exact same stone that sat in the dark, remembering exactly what the city did to someone who dared to speak the truth. It just waited for someone with the right hands to wash the paint away. It's just an incredible story of preservation and patience, isn't it? And it leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to ponder. What other erased histories might be sitting in the dark, patiently waiting for the right person to find them? Because as we've seen, the things worth preserving really do have a way of persisting. Thanks for exploring this fascinating explainer with me.